I'm Bianca Miller-Coles, serial entrepreneur, personal branding expert, speaker, author, and business mentor. I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur. From a very young age, probably 4 or 5, I set up shop in my bedroom. I had a play till and everything, but real money. And I made great profit because my parents provided all the resources and they were my primary customer. Then at the age of about 12, I had a love of dance and I started a dancing agency and sent my friends out to various schools to teach dance on my behalf. Then age 17, I wasn't allowed to go out very much. My parents were quite strict. I thought, how can I get out legitimately? So I started doing under 18s parties, managed to do about 3 before my parents said, can you stop trying to make money and actually do your A-levels? But if we fast forward to when I was actually starting as a real life, business person, it was back in 2012. I had this realization after working in the corporate world for about 2.5 years that personal branding was a real problem. I was coming across people who were academically very intelligent in my corporate position at Accenture. They had these grads, they were academically very smart, but just not very good at personal branding, like communicating, networking, dressing appropriately. And then I left Accenture and I went into an independent recruitment firm. And that's where I saw it wasn't just graduates who were struggling with personal branding. People of all ages were struggling to be able to articulate their experience, to perform well in interview, to be able to write a good and compelling CV or have a really good online brand. And that's what made me start my first official business, the B Group. I really wanted to provide personal branding services to everyone. I wanted people to be able to see that by marketing themselves, they could improve their career trajectory, they could achieve their business goals, they could get themselves out there and really start creating those impactful relationships. They could really start meeting with people and making an impact as soon as they met them in those first 7 seconds. And I really want to be a part of that journey. So that's what made me start my first official business. And and now I'm on to quite a few different businesses, but that's my first one. So I help a variety of different clients with their personal brand, predominantly through interactive workshops, but also kind of coaching stroke mentoring. So I really love the fact that when I get to be in front of a client, sometimes they've never heard of personal branding. They don't know what it is. And it's my job to inform them of what a personal brand is, but also take them through the actionable steps to ensure they understand what their personal brand is, how to articulate it, how they're being perceived, how they can build their personal brand on and offline, and how fundamentally they can make an impact. And so that may be via kind of group interactive sessions, or that might be on an individual basis, helping them overcome their own issues or fears or imposter syndrome, or just getting that confidence to say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is why I do it. So about 2 years into my entrepreneurial journey in the B Group, one day my husband came home, he was my boyfriend at the time, husband now, came home and he said, Bianca, I think you should apply for the Apprentice. And I was like, why? Like, have you seen that show? And I'd always been a fan. Like, I'd always consistently watched it. I remember racing home to watch with my parents, as I said before, always entrepreneurial. But I'd seen what had happened to people when they messed up in week 1 or, got fired in week 2 and they were a laughing stock. And that was scary for me. But I had this idea to redefine nude hosiery. I'd struggled to get tights in my skin tone from a very young age to being in the corporate world where there was an expectation that you could get tights, you would wear tights, sorry. And I remember just looking at my friends, family, colleagues, all of differing ethnicity and skin tone, and they had either the wrong shade or couldn't get a shade to match them. So that was very much a problem for me. And my husband was like, it's a great idea, you should go on the show, you could pitch it, you could, win this business relationship with Lord Sugar. And I kind of ignored him a little bit. And I said, I don't really want to do this. Like, what if I do get fired in week 1 and, have to leave the country? Like, that was my thought process. Anyhow, I looked at the opportunity in its entirety and the fact that 80,000 people apply every year for The Apprentice. So to even get through to an audition stage would have been a phenomenal achievement. And then I did go through the audition. I got offered the show, and I was on the show, and I managed to endure, 12 weeks in a house with 19 slightly unhinged business people. And I got to the final, where I pitched my idea to redefine nude hosiery. And that's what led me to starting my hosiery brand, Bianca London, to really redefine what nude meant for the masses, to be frank. So that's what led me onto The Apprentice. Hosiery in retail. Well, the reason was I was trying to solve a problem. It was a problem for me, but it was also a problem for a large variety of women and sometimes men across the world who just couldn't get the right shade. There was this feeling in the retail sector that it was okay to have one shade of nude, like a pinkish beige colour as defined by the Oxford Dictionary definition. And I was frustrated by that because I wasn't that colour, and not a lot of people are. And if you ask most women about nude tights, they'll say American tan. And most women will say they're not that colour. Like, who is American tan? And so for me, it was an opportunity to explore going into a product. I'd always had a business that was service related, so having a product, but also a product that fundamentally solved a massive problem. And it wasn't just a problem in hosiery, it was a problem across the board. And if I look back on my experience there, really, it was a case of being able to solve a diversity issue. It had become accepted or acceptable that there weren't a variety of shades in a variety of different products, tights being one of them. And so I wanted to be a part of that massive change, and that is fundamentally what happened. After I finished The Apprentice, I was kind of dropped back into the world. I had to make a decision on whether to make the brand a reality or not. And I remember the influx of messages saying, Bianca, I'm cold, where are the tights? Or Bianca, I've got an outfit I want to wear and I haven't got tights to match my skin tone, what's happening here? And just deciding that I wanted to make it happen. And I think when we think about resilience is something that I'm covering in our new book, I really think about the fact that there was that rejection of not winning The Apprentice was an opportunity for me to just not do it. For me to just say, okay, well, I didn't win the investment, I don't have to. But at the same time, I fundamentally believed in the problem that I was wanting to solve, but also the idea that I didn't want to be the type of person who thought an idea was fantastic until I had to put my own money where my mouth was. It was a great idea if Lord Sugar invested, but if I had to do it myself, I wasn't so interested. So I really wanted to solve the problem. And so I made that effort. I reinvested my own money. I started a small production. I manufactured in the UK and I made it happen. And even speaking to buyers at the time, they just didn't get it. Some of them were like, well, do we need this? Don't all white women want to look tan? Do black women buy tights? These are the questions I was getting, but I decided to make it happen anyway. And as a result, the brand went into Selfridges, Topshop, QVC, and there are lots of brands subsequently that have delivered a similar product in a variety of different spaces and different products, but they've offered a greater diversity of nude. And I think it's a really important conversation. So I'm proud to have been a part of that conversation and that change. So as a result of The Apprentice and having had a business for 2.5, 3 years by that point, I was now doing a lot of speaking. I was going around the world in keynote speeches about my journey as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a black entrepreneur, and a variety of different other topics. And what happened, I think one year I was headlining a show, and after my speech, I had a queue for about 2.5 hours of people who were asking more or less the same question. I've got a business idea, what do I do? I've started the business, but how do I get more sales? How do I market it? How do I improve my personal brand? How do I? And my husband, who's also an entrepreneur, he was with me trying to deal with this queue and trying to help people and so on. And on the journey home, we talked about it and we said, it's so strange that everyone is asking the same questions. There must be somewhere out there where this information is provided. And so we did some research and we looked online, looked at various books that were available. And there were books, of course, but not all of them provided really clear, actionable content. A lot of them said to you, you can do it, go and do it. Here's the motivation. But actually, how do I do it? How do I actually do it? And so we decided to write a book that provided that step-by-step process, kind of hand-holding you through that journey of starting, growing and scaling a business. In particular, for those people who didn't have loads of money to start with, didn't have that rich uncle or that Lord Sugar figure. If you had to do it yourself, grassroots, credit card, how do you make it happen? And that's what made us write the first book. So the first book, Self-Made, The Definitive Guide to Business Startup Success, is that step-by-step process. It takes you through that journey as almost like a pocket mentor experience. And then it became a #1 bestseller and did incredibly well and really motivated me to see that so many people have great ideas, but they just don't always know how to make it happen. And we wanted to help people with that. As a result of the book becoming a bestseller, people started reaching out to us saying, we love the book, it's helped us so much, but we want mentorship. And it's something we hadn't really planned for. And it just became a really interesting opportunity to start a program to actually provide that hands-on support. And so we started the program, started mentoring entrepreneurs, and it has grown considerably over the last 4 years, having helped hundreds of entrepreneurs at this point. And I just love mentoring. Like people always say, oh, Bianca, do you do coaching? I'm like, well, coaching is asking questions and expecting you to find the answers, right? It's encouraging you to think in deep inside of yourself and bring it out. For me, I like to move quickly. So if you can give me the answers, give me the answers. Don't ask me to find it for myself. And so for me, as a mentor, I love being able to come up with ideas, solve problems, and be hands-on with that mentee, help them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And that for me is the best part of mentoring. Just seeing the growth, just seeing the person change, just seeing their business change, and in some part, just changing the whole kind of their legacy, really, changing the life of their whole family. I've literally seen mentees go from, one of them came in, was doing like 75K turnover, which obviously is good turnover, right? To 2 years later, after our mentorship, going to 1.2 million. That is life-changing types of activity. And so I love being able to not only inspire someone, but generate new ideas, solve problems, think about the next steps, and just take them on that journey to achieving whatever that success looks like that they want to achieve. So I love being a part of that solution. And I'm an ideas person. So I love being able to say, let's do this, and then give them the actionable steps, and they go away and do it, and it's a success, right? So that's why I love mentoring. My ultimate goal is to help people achieve their very best. And I don't say that lightly. Like in the B group, when I'm working on personal branding, I'm working with clients, a variety of different clients and key stakeholders, phenomenal organizations, and I'm literally helping their talent understand what their personal brand is and then align that with what their career goals are. So, okay, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve? Okay, for example, one of my legal clients, I'm working with their, senior associate lawyers who want to be partner. Okay, you want to be partner. How do we make sure your personal brand reflects that? How do we ensure you have the right perception so that when you go for partner, there are people vouching for you? How do we get those brand ambassadors on board? How do we ensure that that's reflected on your online brand as well as your offline brand presence? Like that, for me, is the ultimate goal. Helping you see and define what your goal is, and then how do you make it happen? What are the actionable steps you need to take? So I love that from a corporate perspective and for kind of helping talent. And then for the entrepreneurs that I support, again, it's what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Like, I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship being very similar. And I think a lot of the career professionals that I work with, when they understand their goal and they understand how they add value, they start to really be inspired to act in an entrepreneurial way. And the same goes for the entrepreneurs I support. They're thinking, how can I be dynamic? How can I connect with my audience? How can I build my brand to ensure that my marketing is working? So my ultimate goal is to help people achieve their very best. So my journey as an entrepreneur, I think, really helps career professionals because I'm coming at it from a totally different perspective. So I have had a career, although short, in the corporate world, 2.5 years in Accenture, obviously a phenomenal experience. But also in the last 9-10 years, I've been working with a variety of different corporate organizations, like the who's who of the corporate world: Google, Facebook, HSBC, American Express, Accenture, EY, Deloitte, the whole roster. And so I have lots of experience of what is required for someone to ascend the career ladder. But also, as an entrepreneur, I've had to make steps individually to define my personal brand, to ensure that those clients know who I am, that those clients come to me, they know the value that I add. And so in that way, I take my entrepreneurial know-how and I make that into a structure that works for those who want to be entrepreneurial. So I give them that know-how and that step-by-step process to develop their personal brand, to communicate more effectively, to network more proactively, to create a really impactful online presence. And those are the aspects that I have taken through my own experiences that have enabled me to then feed that back into them and make them the very best that they can be in their career as a professional. So that's how my entrepreneurial know-how helps. So the second book very much came out of the experiences and feedback we'd had as a result of the first book. So Self-Made, the definitive guide for business startup success, very much documented the step-by-step process of building the business. But it didn't look at what was happening in your life outside of the business. And we kept getting feedback from people: my business is doing really well, I've had a promotion at work, this entrepreneurship thing works, fantastic, right? But there was the other feedback, which was, as a result, my romantic life is suffering. Or I've now gotten a promotion, or I'm out now in loads of magazines and articles and so on, but I feel like an imposter. Or I'm dealing with all of this stuff and it's making me really anxious and really stressed and I don't know what to do. And so these were the comments that were coming back to us, and we thought, wow, this is a topic that needs to be discussed. So we decided to write the Business Survival Kit as a way of giving people really tangible advice and information about how to get ahead without losing out on love, life, and happiness. And so we're covering a variety of different topics that I think a lot of professionals struggle with. And that was the reason. As a speaker, I am very interactive. I want the audience to go away with real clarity, some really tangible information that is actionable. And so I try to make the sessions as engaging, as interactive as possible. So whether that's via a workshop where I'm actively getting them to have group discussion, individual thought, writing down their own action plans or elevator pitches, and just actively leaving with a full list of notes and action points that they know how to execute. Or as a speaker giving a keynote speech, my job is to relay that information, to inspire the audience, to engage them, but also to leave them with some key action points at the end. I always believe in providing some really great tangible information. So where possible, I am, or at least I try to be, and the feedback says, I'm dynamic, I'm energizing, I'm engaging, because I think that's what I would want from a speaker. I've been to lots of events, I've seen lots of speakers, and not all of them engage you. And my job as a speaker is to provide that engagement, but also that insight, that actionable content that is really interesting and really tangible. So my most popular topics as a keynote speaker, the first one is my personal journey, so which I call From Dreams to Reality, where I document what it was like from a very young age being entrepreneurial and my journey all the way up to present day. And then I leave the audience with some actionable content at the end. So that might be how they then make their dreams a reality. So just going back to them, what do you want to do? What are the steps you need to take? And I give my 7-step formula to writing goals that are really tangible and actionable. So that's one of the most popular ones. Others might be on personal branding or entrepreneurship, or it could be creating an entrepreneurial culture within an organization. And of course, I have lots of clients that come to me and say, Bianca, we want you to speak about a particular topic. So it might be imposter syndrome, resilience, how I've overcome obstacles, how I deal with the day-to-day life of having, and running so many businesses and still kind of, trying to have a life as well. So the topics vary so much, but definitely one of the most popular is my journey. And then on the end, some actionable content for the audience to really take action. That's a great question. And I think it would be easiest if I just read some rather than trying to tell you what they say. So let's go with some recent quotes I've had on here. So her professionalism, energy and creativity that she brings to the table is exactly what I admire about her. Oh, that's good. And then I found the advice really energizing. I learned a lot from the session, specifically the importance of PAC. So PAC is my 4-part framework for personal branding. So presentation, approach, communication, knowledge. So that's what they found really super important about that one. Okay, this one from a client at Hiscox. Bianca's brilliant speech on storytelling and the importance of building a personal brand was truly inspiring. And thank you so much for energizing and motivating us all. Then another client said, this is a NatWest talk I did. I'm breathless with excitement still. A sheer joy hearing your wonderful marathon of a presentation at the NatWest International Women's Day event. Many congratulations. Lots of different feedback about that. I did a talk for a brand called CGI about choosing to challenge. And they said it was delivered in an engaging and motivational way. I know I speak for all when I say I took away some really key messages that I can easily apply to my job and personal life. So typically that's the sort of feedback we get. Energizing, inspiring confidence. They leave with actionable content. So yeah, in a nutshell. So that was an insight into my personal journey. I would love to work with you on workshops, coaching, mentoring, or training programs in general. So if you would like to book a call with me, please do.